Welcome back to the Career Coaches Podcast. Excited for today's guest. He is a guest that was in the How to Get a Job podcast before, and he is, to me, I think one of the legends in the career coaching space, even though I think he flies very incognito. I don't know. I think he does it on purpose, which would be interesting to get your perspective on this, Gaurav. But I know last time we spoke about is how you helped your executive clients kind of get jobs, and the fact that you've placed over 875, which is incredible. Our guest today has built a multiple seven-figure career coaching business with an extremely lean team, and I'm super excited to talk to him in this live podcast because every time we talk, it just I always leave so energized in our conversation. So, Gaurav Valani, he is the founder of Career Sprout, and you've been doing this for like a long time now. Like I think 12 years. I was
Yeah, I
12.
2015.
Oh no, 9 years. But you also had a staffing agency before that you sold. But Gaurav, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Um, Dude, we were like right in the middle of like such an awesome discussion right before we started this. Um, I don't know how you could take it however you want to take it, but that was cool for the other coaches. I'm sure they find that valuable.
Well, let's bring it back. So, we were talking about different business models that you could do within coaching. And so I'll kind of like summarize some of the things that I think about it, and then we can dive deeper into the pros and cons that you see of those each business models and so on. So what I'm noticing is that there's an explosion of people selling products. And within that is fitness programs, sales coaching, career coaching, and that's part of the growth of the creator economy and social media, right? And within the career coaching industry, you have on one side you have this free advice that influencers post on social media, and in the other spectrum you have this really high ticket white glove services, $10,000-$15,000, which people like. There's coaches that will apply for people, will network for people, and do kind of all of it. And then there's a spectrum from like cheaper communities, lower middle ticket products, group programs only, hybrid programs only, one-on-one coaching until they get a job. So you have all this plethora of different options, and there's I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. I think it just really depends on the individual, the background, their experience, their niche,
Mm.
and their marketplace. So would love to hear your thoughts on kind of like that, and also maybe dive into the conversation that we were speaking of before we even hit record.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a right or wrong model. I'm sure. So it's funny because you and I've probably done some of these ourselves. I used to have a group coaching program. Um, then we had a one-on-one program, but this was when we had a bigger team. So there was like 5 of us. And so like a client would come in, but he or she would only get to work with each coach like individually. So they felt like it was so much more personalized. So think it was group model, but that's actually the coaches that are the group and it's the client that's the individual, you know? But then we had it the other way where it was like you come in, we have modules, we have a community, then like multiple times a week, you can jump on like office hours where you talk to a coach, get your questions answered, whatever. And then now I'm back to like one-on-one. And so I think they're all effective, but I do think it depends on who your target audience is too, because like my clients are very, very senior level, and I don't think they would. I don't actually think they appreciated group coaching as much as we thought they would. You know, so it's just yeah, there's no right or wrong, but I don't know.
I think that the best programs that I've seen are hybrid. And even with senior level or early level, I think that a program to be very successful, and I take a lot of inspiration from the fitness industry, has to have three pillars: strategy, accountability, and community, because it makes them sticky. And I think that the more senior someone is, the more they are willing to pay and want the more white glove service, and the more they feel like they're a special snowflake where their situation is different.
Mhm.
But I do think that you could build a hybrid program where there's an element of a lot of white glove service, and to your point, one-on-one meetings, a done for you resume or branding package that includes LinkedIn. There's like mock interviews, like there's a lot more strategy coaching, but still have an element of group calls that they get to connect and interact. I think about like universities, half of it's what you learn, half of it's the network that you build. And so if you're allowing these, if especially if you're niched down really well and you're allowing this directors, vice presidents, or C-level executives interact with each other within a similar industry, I think there is a power to that. But they have to feel like they're getting the coaching from those private sessions, but the community just enhances that more than anything. And I think to me, that's like the best model where you can deliver a career coaching transformation in about 6 to 8 one-on-ones.
Mhm.
Uh, I think that's, if I had to pick one, I think knowing what I know now and seeing the inside of probably hundreds of career coaching businesses, I would build a hybrid model from scratch. Does it mean that that's always the answer for everyone? No, probably 80% of the time it would be, but I think there's exceptions on like a very like C-level, and then also level entry level. Those like level entry, probably I'll go more in a community group like we were talking about before we hit live, and maybe on a VP to C level, probably spend more one-on-one with a little bit of group.
Yeah. Um, if I were starting out though, I would only do one-on-one because
Yes.
I don't know my style, my strengths, my frameworks. Like I want to test on a few or like, maybe 10, it depends. And then if I feel like, hey, what I just did with these last 10 people, what I improved on was good, it was helpful, and I can repeat it, then I would move to group. Um, but I
Yes.
don't think I would do group right off the bat.
Well, you can't because you don't have enough lead flow or client flow to even make it
That
happen.
too.
So
Yeah.
we have two core programs in Opni. One is called the Career Coaches Accelerator, and that one's for newer coaches. And our goal of that program is to help them land their first 3 clients.
Mhm.
What we teach in that program is one-on-one white glove service. If you needed to meet with a job seeker 30 minutes every day until they get a job, do it, because it's not even about optimizing for scale or for time. To your point, Gaurav, you're just working out your kinks and you're paying the toll with your time. And later on, once you've worked, we say at least with 10 clients from beginning to end, then you're going to be like, I'm finding myself repeating myself over and over in every conversation. And then we say, and then we break that down to what's the 80% that everyone has to go through, and what's the 20% that everyone has different goals, backgrounds, and aspirations that we need to personalize. And then you could build the hybrid program. So it's like one-on-one, hybrid, and then for most people, stay in hybrid. And then if anything, group later on. But there's not many coaches that have the lead flow unless you're running ads to build group on a scale.
Yeah. What's the second program you have?
It's called the Career Coaches Operating System, and that is where we systemize the business and make it scalable, build out the team. At that point, you can start outsourcing sales to a closer, or part of the coaching to recruiters or hiring managers, resume writers, things that come into place. So it's just more of like the systemizing of the business. Like think about like a franchise in a box
Yeah.
where we give you an 80% model that works for any career coach, but then we bring in your expertise, your background, and help you adjust that model to your niche, your backgrounds, and your goals and your aspirations. Because not every business owner wants to build a 7-figure career coaching business like you have. Some just say, if I can make $250,000 and take home 150, like, and work 30 hours and make an impact, dream life.
Yeah. That's cool. Show and I were talking about that yesterday. Like, I think one of the mistakes a lot of people make in any business, and I made this, is that you scale for the sake of scaling. Like,
Mhm.
I was telling him, there's no prize that you get for making $1 million as fast as you can. There's no prize, but there's certainly a freaking cost, you know? And so I think when we build businesses, like you were just saying, it's really good to like know what your number is first and why that's your number, rather than like I just want to make $1 million or whatever. And that number can change as your life changes, you know? So, but as long as you're like it's that number should be true to you and you're not scaling for the sake of scaling, you should be okay, you know?
Yeah. I think you're a perfect example of that. Um, I don't know how much you're willing and open to share, but you've built such a great business, but that serves your lifestyle. I was talking to Salome, my right hand person, my COO, and I was like, I just respect how much Gurav just understands, and I think it comes with your level of maturity and just being in business for a long time and having a bigger business and selling that off and just seeing what it took to build it to that level where you're just like my priority is my family, and you're at this stage in your life where you're prioritizing, and I'm at a point where I'm like starting thinking to growing my family. And Zella was like, how do you think you're gonna, like, we were at dinner yesterday, like how much do you think you will change your hustle, like let's go put a lot of work into it mentality when you have kids? And I said, I don't know for sure. I enjoy the building of the business and I want to grow this. Um, but I respect Gaurav a lot because we were talking about like at the interview that you have found a way to make this extremely still lucrative by 99.9% of the world's point of view, but yeah, you never sacrifice your family and your time with your kids. Like I messaged you. Remember, I was like, I loved watching the stories of you and your son in India traveling, and like that the joy that he had in his face. Like I was like, I would trade that for $1 million to have a son and see him experience that joy that Grew have got to experience. I think that was more probably priceless. Like I don't even know how you felt about it, but to me, I can see your happiness and his happiness, and I think that that was like awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I don't know. I think you go through these seasons as an entrepreneur, you know, and then they're exactly that. It's a season. I don't think that there's like a one size fits all and that's what you're gonna do forever kind of thing. Um, I certainly had a lot of ambition earlier on, and now I kind of don't. And so like, okay, you know what's interesting? It's like I don't know if you've ever heard of or watched any of Jerry Seinfeld's interviews after you know Jerry Seinfeld.
I know it is. I didn't watch his show, but I do know like how much he wrote on a notepad, like jokes every single
Yeah.
day, and like it was just like he
Yeah.
worked his butt off to get to where he was. Yeah.
So he built this show Seinfeld, which ended up doing really, really well, but he's like, it took so much out of him, you know? And then after Seinfeld ended, all he wanted to do was just go around the country and just do little stand-up acts everywhere to sharpen his skills. And I
Mhm.
think about this a lot, like, not that I'm Jerry Seinfeld, but I think like this is the Jerry Seinfeld season for me because we have 2 little kids. I love spending time with them. And so the reason people wonder like, "Dang, I don't know who's gonna end up watching this," but like I used to have a big career coaching business, then it went to a small one. Now it's just me again. And people are like, "Well, why did you scale all the way down?" And I was like, right now, for the next sort of like the way I entered to 2026 was like, I just want to work one on one with some clients and get back to the roots of coaching and feel like I'm just creating like a song. Like it's like a record producer with an artist. You're just creating songs. And like I can continue to test what's working really well. I can start understanding what's no longer working in this market. What should we adjust? And like it's very scientific for me, right? And then like after this season is kind of done and whenever that ends up being, I will have learned so much from this little era, and then I can apply it to like how I want to build the business again, if I even want to build the business, you know?
Do you think that you have the luxury to do that because there's a financial blanket or at least safety net that you've built from your like the scaling of the career coaching business and even the sell off of your company, where if you were to not get a client for 3 months, I don't think you're sleeping. You're not like you're not sleeping, losing sleep over it. And now this allows you to be creative. Like Seinfeld, he made so much money from the show, it burned them out. And what brought him joy is to like sharpen his craft as his little crowds, like going back to the roots of where he started as stand-up clubs with, and it's like for you where it's easy for you to say, like, if I'm looking at it, it's like it's easier for you to say, I'm just starting out, I'm just building my career coaching business. This is the first entrepreneurship journey that I've had because I've been in corporate for 10 to 15 years. So
Mhm.
I don't have the luxury to not grow fast or scale or have this like post, like to do all this activity that's required to get started.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I say all this because I've been doing this for like 10 years, and we were able to like learn how to scale it and grow it. And then, decisions that we made financially because we were making more income, like investing it correctly. So yeah, I would say at this part of the journey, it is a lot easier for me to say, oh yeah, if I didn't get a client for, you know, a year, 3 months, six, whatever whatever the
Yeah.
example is, it wouldn't be as a big deal. But that certainly wasn't the case like earlier on.
Yeah. But for you too, like it's you've done this long enough where you know what is like the effort is needed to get a client. And like you've perfected the sales script, you've perfected the coaching script. So you also understand that it doesn't require a lot of sales calls for you to get a client, and your ticket is high enough where you can just even have a great life working by yourself, like having a small team with just you right now,
Yeah.
and still working with what, like if you worked with 4 clients a month, 1 client a week that you get, that's very doable and scalable for you, or like manageable for you, and still it's a really good sized business that most people would envy.
Yeah. What's the question though?
I guess my question to you is, how much of it is because you already know how the funnel essentially works, how creating a certain level of content brings into sale? Like, what advice do you have for somebody who's starting off who doesn't like know what the end line looks like? It doesn't know how the funnel like flows, or how like exactly all those steps.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for somebody starting off?
No, that's a good question. So when I started out, dude, there was not actually a coach for career coaches. I mean, there were coaches. Um, if I were starting out today and I did have the funds, I actually would just hire a coach right off the bat. Like, I think I could have saved so many like white hairs from growing by just hiring a coach when I first started. I didn't do that in the beginning. So it was all on my own. But the way I would do it now, let's just say there were no funds, right? Like I'm starting off, I don't know if I trust a career coach yet, like a coach to teach me how to build a career coaching business. The way I started out, and I don't know if this is like the journey for everybody, but now I wouldn't trade it, which was like, dude, the first thing I did is a long time ago, 2016. I took a picture of myself standing on a street that says free career coaching, and I had a sign, and I have the Twitter thing. But anyway, um, it's like and then I put it on Twitter, and then I put it on LinkedIn, and I said, offering 10 hours of free career coaching to the first 10 people that are interested. And that was 100 hours of work. And like, obviously it's free. People like message me up the yin yang. And so then I took on 10 clients, and I told each one up front, I was like, I've been a recruiter and I understand the job market, but I've never done coaching. All I want from you is throughout this process and at the end, tell me what worked, what didn't work, what you liked, etc. And then write me a testimonial if you felt this is helpful. Um, and I did that. And then so I did 100 hours of this. And then it was really like people were writing me testimonials. And then for the next like sort of month, I just spent time creating content. I would say, look at what I did with this client. Look at what I did with this client. Look at what I did with this client. And then I said, if you guys are interested, book a call or message me. I didn't even have Calendly back then. It was all manual. And that was the process that I got my first paid client. And my first paid client, dude, my first paid client was $350. And I remember, man, my wife was like, I don't know how you're gonna build a sustainable business off $350. And I was like, fuck, that's a good point. Now it's like, way higher than that. But that was like the process. I was like, I would just offer free coaching, gather all those screenshots, testimonials that like capture the process, and then create content around the process. And it's actually not very different than what we do today, is it? It's like you take on a client, you post their results, you post their process, you talk about the journey of another job seeker, and then you say, if you're interested, book a call. My funnels change a little bit now where it's like, you know, I do LinkedIn lives every week for the most part. And I'm like very consistent with that. And that builds a lot of trust. And so then if I ever say in an email that goes out to my newsletter, or if I put it on LinkedIn, I'm like, by the way, I'm opening up 2 spots. I'll get like 10, 15 people book a call like that. And then not that I'll close all of them, but that's like that. Or I'll do once a quarter or twice a quarter, I'll do these huge, massive, like 4-hour workshops where like I will sit down, just me and like 100 something people, and it'll be like straight up 4 hours of me sharing everything I know. And then at the end of it, I'll just say, oh, by the way, if you're interested in coaching, let me know. And there's no like sales pitch, nothing. It's just, if you're interested in coaching, let me know. And then I'll get calendar filled up with call. So that's sort of like the process I go through.
I would love to dive into this because for you, you say it in a way that is so common sense and so easy,
Hmm.
but it's very hard to execute that because of limiting beliefs that we might have. And so let me kind of walk through that. First, the way you started with free 10-hour coaches for 10 people, so 100 hours, I think that that would work in 2026 just like it did in
It will,
2016.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's like I think that's
Yeah.
and if I like it still will work. And if you think about like the journey of like Alex Hermosi when he quit his consulting job, drove down to California, and he did the same
Mhm.
thing. He's like, I will do 10 people, get them in shape. And then the next step was I'll do it for free. And then he then charged, but said, don't pay me, pay a charity. And then then he said, well, don't pay the charity, pay me. And like that was like his progression. But his
Wow.
same thing was like, let me deliver value. And then I'll get testimonials and then I can go do that. I think that that would work probably in 2036 and 2046. I think the challenge is that that doesn't give you instant gratification. And we live in this world where we want instant gratification,
Yeah.
right? Another challenge or like a limiting belief that needs to be broken in order for someone to do what you just did is the fear of if I give all my best advice away for free, what are people paying?
I don't
And
like that.
you don't do that. Like, even when I think about the big PDF that you wrote on here's how to get a job, like you essentially probably did the what you did in a 4-hour workshop, you just did it in a PDF in a like Google sheet. So how did you break that belief? And how would you advise someone else to break that belief of not being afraid to give away their best advice for free?
Yeah, it's because most. So I think of it like this: for every 10 people that take a PDF of yours or join a workshop of yours, for like every 10 people that do that, one of them or maybe two of them are going to actually execute it, right? So they didn't pay you, but they took your thing and then executed it. Okay, what does that lead to? Free marketing, right? Now you have two people who are out there being like, dude, you should go follow Gaurav Valani's thing because he's whatever, right? Now I have free marketing. Now there's 8 people that can't execute it. Of those 8, some of those will just call you right away and be like, hey man, this seems like a lot. Just help me do it. Right? So now I got a paid client. The others are like, hey man, I'm going to try this on my own, whatever, can't do it. They'll come back later or not come back. So it's like I just got free marketing and I just got like paid clients from the thing, right? And the only reason they even did that was because my thing that I chose to share was like the best thing possible to get them their wins. And so I look at it more like, why did we fucking get in this game? We genuinely got in initially to help as many people as we could. At least that's what we all say, right? So
Mhm.
if that's true, then stick with it. Help as many people as you absolutely can. And the only thing you can charge for if you want to is like anything that's not scalable. That's how I think about it. It's like if a PDF that's scalable, I don't need to charge for it. Just go take it. Everyone's gonna charge 19.99, 59.99. I'll just give it out for free and I'll take all those customers, you know? And and then if so, then what's happening is we're actually helping people. But then that spreads like wildfire. I don't even have like tons of followers like you or a lot of other people show, you know? But I just know that when by the time I get someone gets on a sales call, they'll say, "Oh my God, I read your this, I watched your that, I've been following your LinkedIn lives, I've been joining your LinkedIn lives." It's like the by the time they come to pay, it's like the easiest sell because of all the like breadcrumbs I've been leaving forever. So
Yep.
that's to your point of like, why, what's the limiting belief? It's like, dude, otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to battle people for attention. Um, there's so many people putting out like generic advice. If you're just one of them, you're not going to close.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like, if strategy alone was enough, then we would all be in shape, fulfilled, and rich because ChatGPT and Google have all the strategies. They're smarter than me and you, right?
Yeah.
And so, what people like, this is what I tell my clients is people are not really buying your secret sauce. That what they're buying is accountability and
Yeah.
maybe customizing that strategy to your background goals and situation. Because to your point, I can create a PDF, you can create a PDF. Chat now with ChatGPT, like that didn't exist when you first started or when I first started, but now it's super easy to create a Google Doc, right?
Yeah.
And I also think that going back to what you do those live, we are in a trust recession because there's so many gurus out there, like right, like just like everyone wants like is selling something that it's very hard for you to fake a video. And so like this podcast is live. This is the reason why I'm back at YouTube or why I've been doing a podcast for a long time is because it's really hard to fake it for an hour, let alone for 4 hours. So the longer you can go on a live, the the more authority or trust you're building to be like, okay, like this person actually knows it and didn't just like stole this strategy for someone else or just had ChatGPT create it in an hour.
Yeah. It's true. I think you're right. Like if there's Yeah, I think you're right. Dude, if you're earlier on and your limiting belief is I don't want to give out all my free stuff, dude, trust me, there's people out there that are like no more than you giving it out for free. So you may as
Yeah.
well start joining them, you know? Like Hermosi is gives out how much gold, you know? And he doesn't need to.
I mean, it's worked out really well for him. I don't know if you how long you followed him, but I followed him before he officially had acquisition.com. And he used to have a phrase is I have nothing to sell you, even though his whole thing is sales.
Yeah.
And he used to say, my free content is better than what most people charge thousands of dollars for. And I
Yeah.
think he broke that model of like paying $4,000 for just a course. And now no one will pay $4,000 for a course. They might pay $4,000 for a program, but it's like you're getting this transformation that might include an element of a course or strategy,
Yeah.
but it has to have some level of accountability, one on one or community that also adds value because just the strategy alone is just not even like it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah. It's true. He says if you what's his saying, Daniel? If you put out all your best content or stuff for free, then it's actually the reverse happens where like the person's like, well, if he's giving this much out for
Yeah.
free, I wonder what the paid, right? Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he says, if this is free, I imagine what the paid version will be. Now, as someone who has consumed so much of Hermosi's content and then has paid probably over $40,000 now to work and go to his like consulting, go to Vegas, like I actually go back to Vegas in April. I would say that his content is so good for free that his pay stuff is not as good. It's it sucks because it's like the thing is like never meet your heroes. Uh because his pay stuff is him.
Yeah.
And he comes up with a lot of the strategies. He then his team records it, repurposes, and so on. And then when you go to his events, or like where you're now paying to work with acquisition, that now you're working with his team, who are great. Like by any means, they're great experience wise and so on. But they're not Alex Hormozy. Like he sacrificed his whole life to be where he's at right now.
Yeah.
And I think that that was a challenge, but it's also like a learning lesson for me that of I mean, this guy's still building the plane as he fly it, but yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Never meet your heroes. It's probably very true, you know. You know what's interesting? So we talked about scaling for the sake of scaling. So um actually I won't name the name, but one of my friends I grew up with, he's like has almost $1 billion business now, right? His marketing agency does over 9 figures every year. And he does a mastermind. And like 3 years ago, he called me and he goes, "Hey, you want to come to my mastermind?" And I said, "How much is it?" And he's like, "Oh, like I don't know, 60 something thousand." And I was like, "Are you crazy? I'm not gonna spend 60 grand to hang out with you." He's like, "Oh, no, no, no. You like we grew up together." So he's like, "No, you are
Yeah.
Pepe. You can just come." And so then the Indian in me was like, "Oh, hell yeah, free mastermind. I'll come to that." You know. And, and so I went to the thing. It was in Miami, and it was cool. Like, so it's a mastermind. 3 days. They come to hang out with this guy, and you know how masterminds work. Like, there's speakers, but then you guys break out into little sessions and do
Mhm.
whatever. And so m- I would I was sitting at tables with people who for sure had 8 figure businesses and then 9 figure businesses. And I like was the only guy who didn't have an 8 figure business or a 9 figure business, you know? And one of the breakout sessions was like around sales. Like, how do you do sales? And everyone had to go and talk about how they did sales. And then so it comes down to me and they're like, "So how do you do sales?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I'll just post a LinkedIn post and then I'll do a workshop sometimes. Then at the end of it, I'll say, if you're interested in coaching, just book a call." And they're like, "Okay." And I was like, "Yeah, okay. Like that's the sale." You know? And they couldn't like fathom that. And they were like, "Well, what if you did this, if you connect this thing to this thing.io and then you create this plugin and then you use this thing and then hire a few this thing, you could do this thing." And I was like, "Man, like none of that sounds cool, dude. Like that just seems like so much more work, you know?" I was like, "I'd rather just make this and not do all that versus do all that." And my point is, like, these are 9 figure people giving you the game, you know? But I was telling Show this yesterday, and this is why I'm not going to disclose the name of the mastermind, but like a lot of these people, they were mainly dudes who were like divorced or out of shape,
Mhm.
don't have a relationship with their kids, and they sacrificed so much to scale their business. Um, and again, I don't actually think there's anything wrong with scaling a business. You've done it, I've done it, we've been there. But as long as you're doing it intentionally and you know what you're doing it for, and then like what's the limit? Like yesterday showed Doan and I when we had dinner, we were saying like as you scale, it's okay to like take stops and just like sit in that next level for as long as you want to and enjoy it. Then go and then enjoy the next one and the next one, you know? But so I don't know like why that came, but we were talking about growing and scaling.
Yeah, no, I would echo some of the sentiments that you have there of I used to like want to build like $1 billion business. And I think a lot of it, if I really dive deep into it, was more of an ego than it was. And maybe I still do. Like I just don't know if I want to sacrifice what's required to get there.
Yeah.
Because the more I like read biographies or even dive into those people who have built those businesses, they have to give up so much. Have you heard like the concept of the four burners?
No.
It's like this, like imagine like your life is like this four burners that have this gas burners. And so you have like finances, you have your family, you have your friends, and you have your health.
Yeah.
And you have the same 24 hours or like energy level. And if you raise the flames in your business, well, then you're going to lower the flames in the other three.
Mhm.
And so it's usually the people who have done some really remarkable things in life, it's because they've sacrificed all other three burners or two of those three burners. And it's very difficult to build those threes. And to your point, there is seasons to it because to optimally do this, you you have to prioritize maybe your career earlier on to be able to build this financial nest egg. But when the family comes in, you can like lower the fire on the business to be able to prioritize your family and then your health and then your relationships. And so they talk a lot about like I forgot the guy who did it. If I find it, I'll send it to you. But is the four burner, and I don't know, money, if you're listening to this, if you can Google four burners and maybe put a link on the on the LinkedIn. But I found that it's like, okay, really interesting because they talked about like the guy was talking about like Mark Zuckerberg or how he is now or like Jeff Bezos, he's recently now prioritizing his health, but it took him leaving Amazon
Yeah.
to then prior, like you if you see pictures of Bezos when he was at Amazon, right? Out of shape, bald, right? And now he's jacked. Right, he's jacked. He has a new wife, like right. It's just
Yeah,
different priorities now.
agreed, dude. You said the you were saying that the limiting belief for career coaches who are just starting off is, one, giving out too much free stuff. What's the other ones that you see?
So yeah, I would love to get your thoughts. I'll give you some all of them, right? But and I don't know all of them, but if we have time. But the second one, well, I would say actually it's the first one is charging what they're worth. So they'll start by charging, like you did, $350 an hour, or like three, not even an hour, $350 or $100 an hour. And so because of that, they're thinking of, okay, I used to make $200,000 in my corporate job, so they'll divide that by the hourly rate. We use the staffing thing of 2,000 hours. So
Yeah.
they're like, okay, my salary, my hourly rate is $100. So now they go and try to get career coaching and charge $100, or they might even do $150 an hour. It's because they're in their head they're making more than they did in corporate. But what they're not realizing is that in corporate they were getting paid for 40 hours, even though they're probably working 50 to 60. But here you're not really working 40 hours of billable hours because 80% of your time is creating content, managing the leads, doing sales calls.
Yeah.
It's not really I would say like the billable hours. And so is breaking that belief of like you can't really even build a sustainable career coaching business if you're not charging. I would say at least $3,000.
Per hour?
Like no for the transformation. Yeah, for a program. So like I'm a I like I'm a big believer of not charging, especially when it's a career coaching of like getting a new job or of selling the transformation, not the hourlies. And the better that you get to be able to help them do it with less hours, good for you, right? But I don't like selling hourly, so I would say sell the transformation and work with them until they get the job. Because again, if we're doing it for impact, then why would you work with them for 10 sessions and then let them go and we don't even know what happens to them? Why would you want to stick around to the end and make sure that they get the job and they get the result? So it's the transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, so charging what you're worth is another one. I could see that. Um, but I do think it's until you have proof that you know what you're doing, charging charging more probably feels scary, right? At least it did for me. Um, but until like once we started like, "Oh, I could get this guy," like, now I know it. "Oh, I see these like, now I know how to prep them for interviews. Oh, they're getting these negotiations, I know how to do that." It's like, once I know and I've done it and it's, like, repeated, then I think it's easier to get on a sales call and be like, "Well, if you don't wanna pay me 18 grand, you can't then you could just walk," you know?
Let me give you a different perspective then.
Yeah.
I would agree with you that it's hard to have conviction in selling something at $18,000 if you haven't been there, done that, or had that the reps where you've seen this go through.
Yeah.
But I've also know that if you do give away for free, people don't take the same. They don't have the same commitment or like down payment of like equity. Even like the banks could let you borrow 100% of your house, but they still make you pay a down payment. There's a reason, right? Like where do you feel ownership of the house? And so my like what I work with our clients to do is don't let's say don't collect all $5,000 up front. Maybe you just ask for $1,000 down payment and the other 4,000 wants to get the job. And you do that in the beginning as you build conviction. But now for you, you're now incentivized to help them get the job. And now but they also have enough financial commitment where they're going to take your advice seriously and not take it for granted.
Mhm.
And so I think to me that even if it's a $500 down payment and the rest is when they get a job, I think that's like the win-win in the sense of if you're starting out and you need to build conviction, get your first 3 to 5 clients that way. And then as you get more proof, more testimonials, you can collect more upfront to the point where eventually you have enough stack of proof built that you don't need to even do that model
I
anymore.
agree. I think that's smart. Yeah, I didn't do it like that when I started, but I could see how that would be helpful. Um, it's like that now, actually. The amount of people I let walk because I don't do any sort of like pay later, pay
Yeah.
little is a lot. Um, but it makes sense. I like that idea for younger or for people who are just starting out their business.
To build that conviction for themselves.
Yeah.
I think sales is a conviction game. And so they need to believe that they can do that transformation. And so betting on themselves and saying, and that's what I always like what I was telling them is like, if you need to meet with them for 30 minutes a day for 3 months, do whatever it takes, do the unscalable. We could you can always figure out how to scale it later on, but you need to go through those reps. Um, yeah.
I would I don't know how many people are doing workshops anymore. Do they do a lot of work? Like, I would recommend also, like so that what you're talking about is, like, on the selling side. I'm talking about next is, like, the lead side, which
Mhm.
is, like, what if you just did like, I don't see a lot of coaches doing workshops, private workshop, and I thought, like I was like, "Dude, if you just did a private workshop every single freaking week," right? Whether it's 10 people that join, 50 people that join, as your newsletter, your email list builds, more will join, whatever. If you just did one every week for like a small group of people, and then like on the every other one or every 2, 3, you just said, by the way, if you're interested in coaching, let me know kind of thing. I bet you'd see a consistent, your increase in leads you'd see an increase in leads, you know?
I think workshops m- work really well for the middle of the funnel. Um,
Mm,
that is something that we have found is the best like lead magnet, better than like an ebook or anything like that. Is we call like webinars or workshops, right? Like live teachings, right?
yeah.
And because again, the trust recession and so so absolutely, our advice inside of our program is however often you can get at least 10 people to register is worth doing a workshop. So like the numbers will break down something like this. You have 10 people register, 50% show up. And the smaller the workshop, the higher the show up rate is. Like if you have a thousand people register, like because you've been promoting it, the show up rate is more closer to like 33 to 50%. But if you're doing it to your point where you're probably sending a voice note to every single lead that register, the show up rate now goes to like 75, 80%, right? Like the more like personalized invitation it feels like, and it feels like a smaller. But to me, anytime that you can get at least 10 registrations, 5 people show up, one of those people could potentially become a client, it becomes worth doing. And so if you're just starting out, it might be very difficult to even get 10 registrations a week. So you might have to do this bi-weekly, which is better than like two. That's fine. Like that, do it bi-weekly. But the idea would be to either doing weekly. And then we then saw that if you have more than 30 people at the workshop, your conversions from workshop to sales calls decrease. So if you can get 60 people to attend the workshop a week, you're better off doing 2 workshops, like a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Interesting. So if you get more people that show up to the workshop, you're saying less people book calls?
it just feels like you're just another number, especially if you're saying a high ticket, like white glove service. Like in your scenario, if you had more than 30 people, I would just have another one because especially because your value proposition is you're working with a 10-year veteran in this space one on one until you get a job. Now you're super expensive, or not really. I think the value is there, but it needs to feel intimate because your program is intimate.
Mm,
Now, if you were doing like, let's say, like the idea of like show building this amazing community of thousands of people,
yeah,
at that point, it doesn't you don't need the workshop to be small. You actually want the workshop to be big because the herd mentality that I'm going to be joining this.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I like this idea of, like, when you're early, dude, just do all the dirt, like, do
Yep.
everything that's required, like and I do this now, which is, like, if I'm gonna do a big workshop, right? Not a big workshop, but one of my, like, 4-hour workshops, I'll actually go and make an announcement on LinkedIn and then my newsletter, and I'll say, "If you're interested, let me know, like, actually message me, email or DM me, and then if you meet these qualifications, then you can join, and I'm only gonna open it up to 100 people." Um, and so what's really cool is people will message me, and then I'm literally doing the work, the dirt, which is like now I'm looking at their LinkedIn profile. Do they look like a good fit? If they're
Yep.
like my ICP, then I'll send them a link. I'll say, "Thank you so much. So excited to have you, blah, blah, blah." Then and so like if I do 100 seats, usually I'll get about 88 to like 92 something, like usually on average, is like 88 people will be there. And then by the end of it, like 70 something people will stay for like all 4 hours, or they'll come in and out. Um, and, then I'll say, like, I don't, not 'cause I am doing one-on-one and it is truthful, like, I'll just have, like, only 2, 3 seats, or none, you know? I'll say, "If I have these 2 seats, if you're interested, let me know." And, um, and it's all one-on-one, you don't and so, like, then I'll get, like, a good amount of people who book a call, and then I'll even filter that myself just to make sure, like, is this good or not good, you know? But it's all, like, the dirt stuff, like, I don't I'm just saying that because I do think, like, in this trust recession you're talking about, the more you're willing to speak to people, not in an automated way, I think you're gonna build your trust faster, you know? And right now,
Yep.
everyone is talking about automation and all these things, it's like, that's awesome, but you should wait until you have done this for a little, like, manually for a little while, you know?
100%. And I think that the biggest competitive advantage that you have if you're starting out to go against the Goliaths of like the industry, the ones with the bigger brands and the ones that, like Austin Bells, like say Adam Broder, Reno Perry, like, people that we know, like I actually think it's promoting the fact that I work with you one on one until you get a job. Where those coaches can no longer say that because they have teams and there's other coaches involved. So like that is that angle of being in the dirt of like you're doing the unscalable. And
Yeah,
until you can
yeah,
get to the level where you have to scale or you want to scale,
yeah,
you should use that as your competitive advantage as you build traction, you build testimonials, and so on.
yeah. The unscalable, that's right. That's like for starting out, that's what you should just
That's your competitive advantage. Because the other people who have been doing this longer, unless they're you, because you're a unique unicorn in this sense, it's very hard to go essentially back to doing the unscalable.
yeah, yeah. I was doing all the scalable stuff when we had a bigger team, you know?
Yeah.
Just, like, weirder, but, like, you would think you should do it now when you don't have a team. Um, but again, that comes back to, like, season of life. What do you enjoy? What are you working on? What do you wanna do? Um, yeah, and I'm also, like, you're probably seeing this, and I know we're gonna run out of time now, but, like, there's a lot of shifts in this market, and I don't know exactly where it's gonna go. Um, so having a really good pulse of like what customers want, how do they want to be supportive, what's valuable. Like I know there's different models, but as things change and markets change and people change, or what their expectations are, is when that changes, I think just like speaking to as many people as I can this year is gonna give me this like incredible, dude, look at this, Daniel. Like this is every week, and I have like so many of these of just like, what am I learning from people? What are they saying to me? And I'm just logging it so that way, when it comes time to rebuild again and I want to build again, I'll have like so much like, oh, dude, I keep seeing this trend over and over and over again, and it's like
Yeah.
manually done. This is what I'm saying. This is not scalable,
It's not scalable.
but I
Yeah.
don't really care right now.
Have you heard of strawberry.me?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you, how much do you know of like the founder, what he did before he started strawberry.me?
nothing.
So you've heard of BetterHelp.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2012, therapy was where I would say career coaching is today.
Okay.
So it was segmented. There is a stigma behind going to therapy. There's a stigma of working with a coach, right?
Hmm.
And the guy that founded strawberry.me was the founder of BetterHelp.
Okay.
And he built BetterHelp. They got acquired. He stayed on as a CEO. He worked there for 10 years, right? And he recently, I would say recently in 2013, 2023, left BetterHelp and he started strawberry.me. But it's the same model. Like if you go to strawberry.me, the website, and you go to BetterHelp, you'll see it's a different font, different color, but it's like the same framework. It's the same,
Yeah.
like 3 boxes, and it's the same model. So in BetterHelp, you pay like $70 a month or a week, and you get a 1 hour session or 45-minute session, and then you get texting back and forth with your therapist. And Strawberry.me, same pricing model. There's different levels of how much experience you want your career coach to do, but
Yeah.
you have a session a week, and there's texts back and forth. Same model. His VP of engineering at BetterHelp is now the CTO at strawberry.me. So you start seeing he's running the same playbook.
That's
And
cool.
what I share that with you because there's different models, and I think that there's going to be career coaches that want to be part of a marketplace, and that's not a wrong or right answer. Like where, hey, I work for Better of strawberry.me, they fill up my calendar, they pay me an hourly rate, right? And I don't have to worry about building a personal brand, creating content, and that's great. And then there's the other model where it's like the type of businesses that we have, where is a more higher ticket. There's a starting line and a finish line. At strawberry.me, it's monthly. Like they want to increase the lifetime value of a client. You want them to work with their career coach, not only to help get a job, but to do well at work and then get promoted. Um, and so I say that because I think it's interesting. If I put myself in this founder's shoes, he has a great exit. He has a proven he could have done anything. And the fact that he chose to open this in the career coaching industry is because I feel like that he sees the same thing that I see is that career coaching will become more and more important as AI becomes more and more important, where there's going to be so much shifts. People are going to be uh, having to pivot so much of their careers, and people are going to crave more human interaction. And just like we have therapists for our mental health, we're going to need career coaches to help navigate this ever changing career paths. And I think people will continue to come back. So I guess I say that because the models, but I also be curious to know, have you started seeing more return customers, or a lot of your clients are just like one time and never see you
Never
again?
get repeat customers. Um, but like, yeah, I don't have a recurring model, but that's the
Yeah.
whole point, right? Like if you're charging 18K, 24K, they're expecting like teach me everything. And by the time I'm done with this, I can use this like on repeat for the rest of my career for the most part. Now it's not that they don't come back and ask me some questions. Hey man, I got another offer. Will you take a look? That I do and I see. But like 10 out of 10 times, they won't come back. But again, I don't have like there's no it's such a I don't treat them transactionally, but it in theory it's like very transactional business. You give me all this money helped me get my job. I got my job. And then in the process, like I also like learned how to fish, right? Because you're working so closely with them, you're teaching them so much that by the time they're done, they should, in theory, be able to run this playbook again. And it's funny, like this was last year when it was like I had a team and Katie looked at data all the time. I don't look at a single data anymore. I don't care about anything. And what she found was that our alumni got after they got their first offer, um, they went and the next time they did their search, she figured all this out. It took them 31 point something days, whereas the first time it took them 98.6 days. So like you think they learn so much from that first time, right? So yeah, they don't pay us again. They don't come back again. They don't need to, you know?
Yeah. Question for you. Would you be open to sharing the evolution of how you've priced it and where are you pricing it now?
Yeah. So that $350, that was my first. So it was free and then $350. And then when I first started, I like after that, I did like 1,500 bucks for one-on-one. You get the job. This is still like year one, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But then I just quickly kept like increasing it because I kept seeing people kept paying and paying. So then I was like, okay, well then now 3,000. Okay, then now 5,000. And then when I did my group, when I was doing group coaching, it would be like 5,500. Then it was 7,500, then it was 9,800. Um, then when we did one-on-one, it was like 11,000, and now it's like, then it went to like 14,000. Now it's at like 18,000, and then even 24,000. And so like that's like the evolution of
Wait, what was the last number you said?
24.
So when someone listening to this that will say, "Hey, like I'm getting calls right now. I'm like 2, 3 years into my business." But even when I say 3,000, people always tell me is a price objection. But you just broke that limit and belief by saying that there's people willing to pay 24,000, even if you're helping them get $500,000 jobs, which I know you work with a lot of more
Yeah.
senior level. You charging 24,000, it's still more proportionally to their income than someone charging $5,000 at a 500K job.
Because for them, it's like 1 month's salary, if that. That's how I position it. It's like you're 24 or 18 that you're paying me. That's less than 1 month of your salary, right?
So for a six-figure job, $8,000 would be the how you would price it.
Could be. Yeah. That's how I look at it, at least. Like, dude,
Yeah.
you're gonna yeah, it sounds scary up front, but it's like 1 month. What are you worried about? And then on average, for our clients, at least they make 66 or 60 $66,984 increase in salary, like from their last to the new one. That's the average. Not that all of them
Yeah.
do it, but so your 18,000 or your 24,000 doesn't actually seem big when you compare it to like what and like this is why your sales call has to be really important, right? Like I'm not sitting there like bullshitting. I'm actually showing them like I will show them like look at this is you. Here's someone else just like you. Here's what they're making, right? And then I'll also show them here's job descriptions. Can you do this fucking thing? And they'll be like, yeah. I was like, can you do this thing? They'll be like, yeah. I was like, then what do we want? Like, what are you worried about? Right? So
Yeah.
I just now connected the neurons for them. Like, A, you
Yeah.
just saw like multiple job descriptions of roles you can do, right? Yeah. And then B, did you just see other people who have as much or even less experience than you doing more than you? Yeah. So what are you worried about?
Yeah. To me, the takeaway that you just shared there, if I'm listening to this like career coach, is is rarely a money objection. It's a belief objection, and it's their belief that they don't believe you could do it because maybe you don't have enough or proof stacked, or you're able to prove to them that you did the proof, or there is a limiting belief that they have that might not be able to get that high paying job. But because Gaurav, you've done it so many times, you're able to show them with conviction is like, look, this person with a little bit less experience than you already has a better job than you. Like,
Mhm.
why can you do it? And I think that's where the reps come in. That you're not able, it would be like someone else couldn't go and try to charge $24,000. But if they don't have the reps that you have, that won't happen in the sales call, even if they have the same script as you. The conviction doesn't translate.
Yeah, oh, 100%. I think sales is all energy, like transfer of energy. But the other thing I'll say to that, and then I got to go because it's drop
Yeah.
off time for the kiddos. is that your job on these calls is not to convince anybody. That's how I think about it.
Yep.
Because the second you go into convince mode, they feel it, you feel it. And then
Defense.
that's
Yeah.
when it starts getting icky, right?
Yeah.
So and that's hard, I think, when you're earlier on and this is what you're like, you feel like I have to make this work, which is true. You feel like every sale matters so much.
Yep.
And I'm not actually saying that it doesn't, but you do have to get to that place in your head where any call I'm going into, it's almost like a doctor saying, this is the
Yes.
prescription, right? And if you're not going to take it, that's on you, bro.
Yep.
Right? Hopefully you get better. But
Yep.
I'm not like trying to sell you on you have to do this. It's going to work so well. It's like, no, no, no. Here's the facts. And people's sales are very different. Mine are very like it's so black and white. Like you have this experience. I have people who done it with your experience or less. And then I have job description. Like if this is, I don't under like this is how we're gonna get there. If you want to work with me, I will support you through every step, blah, 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 blah. Just let me know. Think about it. And then they'll think about it. And then that's it. There's no like I don't want to ever get to the point where I'm like convincing anybody because that's when it just doesn't work out.
Girl, I know you got to go, man. I appreciate you for sharing, and again, always being so willing to come on and support me and the community. And I know you support others, so many other great coaches as well. That you just are like a sounding board, and thanks for just being a role model for so many of us in this industry,
Oh
man.
gosh. Man, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man. I'll talk to you soon. I'll catch up. But next
Yeah,
time you're in LA, you gotta hit me up too.
I will. I will.
All right, man. But
Okay.
I'm gonna head out. Is that cool?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. You're good. Hey everyone, thanks. If you're still watching, thank you so much for this. Don't forget to like and subscribe for this podcast. We do this live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. EST, and you can always catch the recordings. But thanks everyone. See you guys next week. Bye.